Okay, now let's take a look at our multi-step equations. So multi-step equations are obviously going to involve multiple steps. So this is kind of where those different acronyms we were looking at are going to be important, because these have to be solved in a particular order. Just the same way as like when you're baking, you can't mix the flour and then put it in the oven and then add the eggs. Like there's a specific order in which you have to do everything. So for the multi-step equations, we want to think about PEMDAS, and we want to think about working backwards through PEMDAS, right? Going that way. And then the other piece that we want to think about, I don't write it down here at the bottom, we want to think about our don't call me after midnight. Distribute, combine like terms, move the terms around, add and subtract, multiply, and divide. Okay, so think about those two different ideas as we are working through these problems. So let's look at this first one. Negative 20 equals 4x minus 6x. So there's nothing to distribute here. Everything's just okay as it is. So what I'm going to do first is combine like terms. Combine like terms. So over here, I just have the negative 20. That stays the same. But on this side, these are like terms, right? The 4x and the 6x. I can bring those two together. So 4x minus 6x gives me negative 2x. And now what I can do, so I don't really want to move the terms around. What I want to do is get this x all by itself. I want to get the x by itself. How am I going to do that? I'm going to use my inverse operations. So there's a multiplication sign in there, an invisible one. So the way to undo this is to either think it's the same thing, just said in a different way. You can either multiply by the multiplicative inverse of the coefficient, or since we know we're multiplying by negative 2, we're going to divide by negative 2. So let's divide. Let's do that. Divide by negative 2 over here means I divide by negative 2 over here. Negative 20 divided by negative 2 gives me 10. Gives me 10. And that's equal to, this cancels out, so that's just equal to x. So let's think about that. Let's plug that back in to the original equation and just check our work. So I'd get negative 20 equals 4 times 10 minus 6. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I have minus 6 times 10. Then I get negative 20 equals 40 minus 60, which yes, that is true. Let's go into this one. We have 6 equals 1 minus 2n plus 5. Again, we don't have anything to distribute, but we can combine like terms over here. We have that 1 and the 5. So over here, I'm left with 6, and then 1 plus 5 gives me 6 minus 2n. So now I'm going to first add and subtract. Add and subtract. I'm going to subtract this 6, subtract it from that side, and I'm left with 0 equals, those cancel out, negative 2n. And now I do my multiplication and division, and since these are being multiplied by one another, again, I can think about dividing by that negative 2, or I can think about the multiplicative inverse of negative 2, which is negative 1 over 2. Then those 2's will cancel out, And I also have to multiply this side by -1/2. This side becomes 0. And then over here, we're left with just n. So 0 equals n. And I can go back in and plug that in. So I'd get 6 equals 1 minus 2 times 0 plus 5. 6 equals 1 minus 2 times 0, that's just 0, so 1 plus 5. Yes, that's true. Let's go on to this next one. 8x minus 2 equals -9 plus 7x. So distributing does not need to be done. Combining like terms, well, my 8x and my 2 are not like terms, so I can't combine them. And neither are the 9 and the 7x. So I can't really do that. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to move my terms around. So again, so that I have all the terms with the variable on one side, and then all the terms that are constants on the other side. So let's move this 7x first. So if I'm adding 7x, I have to use the additive inverse of positive 7x, which would be -7x. And what I do to this side, I have to do over here, so I have a minus 7x. That simplifies 8x minus 7x is just equal to x. Still minus 2 equals -9. Now I'm subtracting 2, so the additive or the inverse operation of -2 is +2, is adding 2. So I add 2 there, add 2 over here. I'm left, those cancel out, I'm left with x equals -9 plus 2 is -7. It's 7. Let's again plug that back in just to be sure. I have 8 times -7 minus 2 equals -9 plus 7 times -7. So 8 times -7 is -56 minus 2 equals -9. 7 times -7 is -49. So I'm left over here -56, and -2 gives me -58. And then on this side, -9 minus 49 is, again, -58. And there's the answer. Okay, now over here, let's go through again. So similarly, we don't need to distribute, and we cannot combine these terms. The a and the 5 cannot go together. The 5a and the 5 cannot go together. So we move on to moving the terms. So I'll put all my terms with an a on this side of the equal sign, and then all my constant numbers over here on this side of the equal sign. First thing I'll do is move this 5a. I could just as easily could have subtracted the 5 first. Doesn't really, that order doesn't matter so much. We can move either one first. But I'm going to move the 5a. So I'm going to do add 5a. And what I do to this side, I have to do over here. So plus 5a. And then I do a plus 5a gives me 6a plus 5 equals -5a plus 5a, which is 0. So I'm left with just 5 over there. Then I have 6a plus 5 equals 5. Since I'm adding 5 on this side, I have to undo it. So I subtract 5 from this side, subtract 5 from that side, and I'm left with 6a. Those are 0, and that's equal to 5 minus 5, which is 0. Now I have this multiplication going on between the 6 and the a. I'm going to choose to divide by 6, divide this side by 6, and then I'm left with just a over here, and that's equal to 0. I'll plug that back in up here just to be sure. So I have 0 plus 5 equals -5 times 0 plus 5. That's just equal to 5, and that's equal to 0 plus 5, which is equal to 5. And that's a big piece of it. I know it feels kind of tedious, and you might be tempted to just not do it. But you can very, very easily check your work if you just plug your answer back into the original equation. And it doesn't hurt to get a little extra arithmetic practice as well.